The Nuggets are on pace to win 4 more games than they did last regular season, which is pretty incredible because, of course, they went on to win it all that year. They also have slightly better both offensive and defensive numbers than last year, which is a little bit scary. We haven't seen repeat champions in the last 5 years, but I really think that Denver is looking like the team that maybe could put all of that to rest. But Perk, are this year's Nuggets, are they better than last year's championship team?
They are. They are. And it's because of the starting five, and it's the pieces around Jamal Murray and Jokic. And it's Michael Porter Jr. Over the last 5 games, he's averaging a dub. And last night was a prime example of fourth-quarter minutes, right? And he had those timely three-point shots, this dunk at the rim, snatching the screws out the basket. He finally looks healthy. We have to remember, when this kid was coming out of high school and when he was in college, he was the #1 player in the country. It was just injuries that slowed him down, but now we're seeing him more comfortable. Michael Malone has more faith in him. Like, he's taking these shots in the crucial moments of the game, and it's like, soon as I thought Minnesota was going to run away with this game once they got the league, I'm like, no. Here come Jokic, and here come a little sprinkle of Michael Porter Jr.
Right, but it's still pretty incredible to think that the Minnesota Timberwolves, on the second night of a back-to-back, were putting in that type of work against the defending champs. Because despite the losses we mentioned, the Wolves are still just a game out of first. 2 more matchups to go against the Denver Nuggets left on the schedule. You can look here. Minnesota was shorthanded, of course, last night, the second night of a back-to-back. Still, they were 1 shot away from sending this to overtime against the defending champions. So, Chiney, of any of the teams in the Western Conference, do you think that Minnesota is the biggest threat to the Nuggets?
Absolutely, because they were built, when healthy, by design to rival the Nuggets, and they have the ability. I mean, we're talking about a night where they're missing a number of their stars, but they still had heart, and that heart came from Anthony Edwards. And so, to me, this Timberwolves team, I know the Clippers, maybe if it was a month ago, I would say, oh, it's absolutely the Los Angeles Clippers. Based off of their defensive prowess, based off of the next steps that we have been witnessing with that guy right there, the greatest showman currently in the NBA, this is the team that I would be most worried about when fully healthy, because their offense may not be perfect. I believe Karl-Anthony Towns fully unlocks it, especially as a stretch big, but they're long, and they can compete with the best of the best. We just saw that yesterday. Now, the Nuggets have always been the favorites for me. I know they've been a little bit slow starting the season, but we all knew that if they were able to continue what they had, they would still be favorites, but they've actually gotten better. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, Jamal Murray was coming off last season, an injury season. Now he's just completely comfortable, and you nailed it, Perk. Michael Porter Jr. When I watched the Nuggets play in person, he was the one that blew me off the floor. 6'10", able to shoot. I mean, it just feels like they have refined their weapons, and they go with what they know, and what they know is that they're a team that can compete when they turn the lights on after All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think Denver's still the favorite in the West. I think they are the best team in the NBA. Even with Boston's record and what they put in the regular season, I've seen Denver reach a different level when they get to the playoffs, especially when they have adversity. They have the best player in the NBA plays on their team. It's just the bottom line. He's the best player, he's the most efficient player, and he's a guy that dominates the game, not just through scoring, but using the assets around him. I do love the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. With that being said, do I think they're better than last year? I don't. I don't think they're better. I think the loss of Bruce Brown and Jeff Green is vastly underrated. I love P. Watt. He's a young, talented player. I think he's going to be big for them in the future. But I think Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, their playing experience, playoff experience, guys who have played on playoff teams, when it comes to the playoffs, it's going to hurt. This is a team that got 13 bench points last night. They don't get a lot from the bench scoring. Bruce Brown used to have 18 himself in playoff games. Jeff Green would come in and have a huge impact. I love Michael Porter Jr.'s health. I love how he's playing. I love how he's shooting the ball. I'm happy. That's one of my best friends. But I don't believe, in terms of an overall team, I think there's a little bit more vulnerability to this team, especially when we see last night, case in point, first off, they just lost to Dallas. And then we just saw them lost to a Minnesota team without their 2 bigs. Minnesota has been built to compete against this team by the same guy who built Denver, by the way. Tim Connelly. So I think, all in all, I love Denver as a favorite, but they're definitely more vulnerable this year. And I think teams can compete, Clippers included. I know they're a mess right now, but
this game actually showed their vulnerability a little bit, because I actually think Minnesota probably walked away from this game not feeling so bad about itself.
No.
They got crushed on the boards, but because they were missing all their bigs. This was a game all the way down to the last second, on the second night of a back-to-back, and they found some schemes defensively that gave Denver a little bit of problem. You know, Jokic only had 2 assists in this game. Now, they obviously still shot over 50%. They still won the game. Good job. But Denver has some vulnerabilities. Another thing is just their rebounding off the bench. They don't have great size.
Why do you look so confused, Kendrick?
Well, because they're vulnerable on the road, but they're not vulnerable at home. And right now, the Denver Nuggets, especially with their record, they're looking like they're going to have home court advantage throughout the postseason. So if we're talking about their lack of experience or lack of depth for as their youth on the bench, I'm not worried about that. Those guys are going to play better at the crib. And I said this at the beginning of the season. I said it would be wise if the Western Conference, if teams in the Western Conference would keep the Denver Nuggets from having that #1 seed. That is going to matter. They are an exceptional team at the crib.
There's home playoff advantage through the West, but the NBA Finals through Boston.
They season swept them. They swept them.
Pelicans, they were in the postseason 2 years ago, but it was without Zion Williamson. He was injured in this one. What are your expectations for him in his first playoff run?
So we've never seen Duke Zion in the NBA. This is Duke Zion. If you forgot, because it's been 5 years, this guy made some plays at Duke that were absolutely jaw-dropping at both ends of the court. This is what has been happening here. So I expect that he can be the Duke Zion again, which meant he's the best player on the floor in a high-stakes game. I believe he can be that if he continues to be this way and he stays healthy. He's never had the opportunity to show us what he can do when he's this conditioned and when he's in the postseason. When you see him doing that and playing with that kind of confidence, you honestly believe anything's possible, especially because they're only a game back of the Clippers for the 4 seed. They can do it, especially if the Clippers don't get their act together.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. This is what we want. This is what we've been waiting for Zion to play at this level, to have that spring, to have that pop in his jumping ability. I haven't seen him move like that since Duke, or really early on. Even his early on years, he was a little bit heavy, and he's had issues with injury and, amongst other things. This is the first time it looks like he's playing clear-headed, drama-free basketball. He looks light. Give him credit. We've all poked jokes and said stuff about his weight, but he's gotten in the lab and shed weight. And now he's in shape, playing his best basketball that we have. And listen, if he's playing like this, there's no reason that the Pelicans can't go to the playoffs and cause some.
By the way, he just became a father, too.
Oh.
See, that's Dad's superpowers.
Right? Perk, you were doing him dirty talking about
we
know he's been done.
Yeah, he been
but it's okay. You did him a little dirty, but we know it was a reverse compliment.
I want
because
some of that.
Zion is from right now with the Pelicans. You said you want some of that.
Yeah.
I mean, might as well at this point.
Go ahead.
Doing him dirty. He's from the dirty South, and he's been doing his opponents dirty in the best ways possible. Just his ability to, it's the versatility for me. Like the reason why the Pelicans will be so potent is because they have length on the perimeter, they play hard, but most importantly, Zion can play in different ways. I've seen games where he's point Zion, where he brings the ball up. You see a pass right there. I've seen games where they said, hey, go get on the block, and it doesn't matter that you have a 6'10" guy behind you or a 7-footer. You can still attract double teams, and you can still pass. That is the Duke that Brian's talking about. It wasn't just his sensational plays. It was like, oh, wow, this is a guy that can throw lobs in transition. This is a guy that can throw dunks down. Like, he is that unique hybrid, and that's going to give people problems because they say, oh, we'll scout him this way. But in the playoffs, he's like, okay, switch it up. I'll just go inside.
They're 7-1 in March. It's largely because of Zion Williamson. We should point out that he's played in 57 games this season after only playing in 29 combined over the last 2 years. I think that they will overtake the Clippers for 4th. I would not be surprised at all with the way that they have been playing if we see that shift happen here in the next couple of games. They've been top 10 in offense. They've been top 10 in defense all season long. That is a recipe for a team to at least make some noise in the playoffs. It's going to be interesting.
They're my sleepers to come out of the Western Conference.
To come out of the Western Conference.
They're my sleepers.
Settle down, Perk.
They're my sleepers. Sleepers.
Okay.
You're allowed to have sleepers.
Yeah, that would be your long shot team. We get it.